Las religiones han sido parte fundamental de la élite Illuminati a través de los años. Si preguntamos cuál es la más grande y más importante del mundo, sería la religión católica. Su poderío mundial representado en la ciudad del Vaticano en Roma influye en todos los países con su mayor jefe de estado, el llamado el representante de Dios en la tierra, el Papa, actualmente el Papa Francisco, y detrás de él un número significativo de jerarcas en las sombras. Este estado conocido como el Vaticano es un lugar poderoso donde encontramos un sinfín de misterios. Analizaremos una entrevista realizada a una mujer quien fue iniciada en una orden secreta de este poderoso estado. Escuchemos el inicio de este periodista quien realizará esta entrevista.
The nightly edition of the Investigative Journal. I'm your host, Greg Szymanski, and my guest today was a member of the Illuminati, the Ordine, Nero they call it in Italian, the family, the order, for over 30 years. She left 10 years ago, has a story to tell that will put chills right through your body. This isn't the type of story that I normally do every day, and it's a story I did an earlier show with Vali, and I'll tell you something, it is one thing to talk about the Illuminati in general terms. It's one thing to, from afar, talk about George Bush and everyone else. It's another thing to go deeply into the Illuminati and to discuss certain things that Vali's going to talk about, which are very graphic, very horrific, and we're going to go into it because I want to impress upon you folks that these people exist, they're dangerous, and they are deeply rooted in our country. Now, 20 years ago, when I was covering stories, I'm a print journalist by trade, and I was working in Rome for 6 years. This was back in the early 80s, and I'll tell you firsthand, I learned from people there during a number of scandals that were going on that the heart of these problems is the Vatican. It all goes back to the Vatican, and I can say that without question. I met people there who told me about it. I met people who went through the same, one woman who went through the same induction ceremony as our guest tonight's going to tell you about. And I also talked about, back then, how they had talked to people who said they were deeply embedded in America. With that, I'm going to introduce my guest, and I might add, Spally's only granted this one interview today with me.
Como hemos visto en la introducción de esta entrevista, el tema principal será los rituales secretos hechos en el Vaticano, y qué mejor para explicarlos que una mujer llamada Esbalí, quien fue iniciada en una logia secreta del Vaticano, donde pudo ver y ser maestra en estos cultos oscuros que se hicieron secretamente. Escuchemos a Esbalí en esta entrevista.
She said she couldn't sleep last night. It was very difficult, and I really want to thank you, Svali, for coming on and sharing this, because I think it's going to help a lot of people, as my emails from this morning have showed. How are you tonight?
Oh, good. How are you, Greg?
Very good. I want to get right into this. You were born into the Illuminati, the family, the order. Tell us a little bit about your childhood and lead us into this induction ceremony in Rome, in the Vatican, when you were 12.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be brief because we don't have a lot of time, but I was born in a group, as both of my parents were in it, so it wasn't a question of being recruited at all. I mean, from my earliest days growing up, that's all I ever knew was being part of the group. My training began at a very early age. It continued throughout my childhood, and by the time I was 12, in the group, normally a person's considered an adult by the age of 12, and right at the point of between 12 and 13, they actually do a formal swearing in into your adult role within the group. And for me, part of this was going to Rome. My parents here prepared me for it, but then I went to Germany because I'm with the German house. I was born in Germany, came to the United States when I was young. But because I belonged to the German house in Europe, I went to the German father's house, and from there went with him and the French father to the Vatican, and during that time went through a ceremony. It's a very horrible ceremony. I mean, there's a room beneath the Vatican that a lot of people don't know about. You go below the basement level there, and I remember going down the stairs, and there's a room there, and it's a round room, and there's 13 catacombs that lead into the room, chambers, and they had taken a mummified figure from inside the catacombs and placed them beside each of the openings in the room, and they told me at the time that the spirits of the departed fathers were watching over the ceremony because they really believe that their roots go back to Rome and even pre-Roman times. They then held a ceremony, and there was a gold pentagram on the floor, but above the pentagram there was a black stone table. And
stay close to your phone, Sally, okay?
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, there was above the pentagram there was a black stone table, and it was made of a shiny stone, and there were gold, like at the end there were like little, I know you call it like little channels to collect fluid on each corner, and they were made of gold. And during the ceremony, they sacrificed the little boy, and after that, the man, he was dressed in scarlet robe, went to he moved to the center, actually to the side of the room, to the side of the table, and I had to go forward and kiss his ring, kneel before him and kiss his ring, and swear my undying loyalty to the world order. And
now, stay close to the phone. Who was with you now in this when you were going through this ceremony?
The French father, he represented the French house. The German father, he represented the German house. There were some other adults there too. Some were Catholic Church officials, and there were 2 other children as well who went through the ceremony.
And you said there were 3 adults?
There's more than 3 adults. There was probably about, I'd say 9 adults in the room with us, total.
Now, what did they say to you after? I mean, what was going through your mind when they were sacrificing this child? I mean, just tell us, can you remember back to what you were feeling?
Well, I was terrified. I mean, I was absolutely terrified. This is one of the most terrifying things a person can go through. So I remember just thinking, I can't wait till it's over. I can't wait till it's over. I can't wait to get through, It was like inside I kept, it's almost like you internally just talk to yourself or through it, like, I hope it's over soon, I hope it's over soon, I hope it's over soon.
Now, you're looking back now, why do you think what's the purpose of this?
I think it's to instill terror in people, because after the ceremony was over, the man conducting it said, may the same occur to you, or worse, should you ever break this oath. And at the time, I was so terrified that the thought of ever breaking that oath never even occurred to me, because I believed him. I mean, these people are not nice people, and when you go through something like that, it makes you very, not only does it instill quote-unquote loyalty, but instills a lot of terror.
Well, like I told you before, when 20 years ago, when I was approached by someone in Rome when I was covering these stories, and they told me a similar story when they were a child, and basically echoed what you're saying about what went on in their ceremony. This woman eventually committed suicide jumping off the Vatican roof.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. After that, I began researching this story in depth and found out some incredible things 25 years ago that are basically coming true now in this country. A couple minutes here before the break. Now, you left this you left this ceremony. You're 12 years old. Tell us who you left with and what happened afterwards then.
Well, I left with the German father, and afterwards he praised me. He said, you did well, because I did everything I was supposed to do during the ceremony, and I didn't cry out or anything like that. And then we just went and we stayed at a local house. It was a wealthy person, and we stayed at the house, spent the night, and then we flew back to Germany the next day.
And did he tell you anything about how you did or what they expected of you?
No, before he had, but he just said you performed well, and he said this will help you rise in the family.
Hemos escuchado de la voz de esta mujer, el relato de rituales secretos en el Vaticano en compartimientos subterráneos que se encuentran ocultos debajo del mismo Vaticano. Sin duda es impactante, pero sabemos que la élite Illuminati realiza este tipo de sacrificios a sus dioses secretos a cambio de más poder y conocimientos. Sigamos con la entrevista.
Okay, Svali, just stay right there. We're going to get back. We're talking to Svali, a member of the Illuminati for many, many years on the Genesis Communication Radio Network. Svali, it does go back to the Vatican. Tell us about this organization that you learned about. You were a mid-level worker in this program, or a mind programmer for years. Tell us about this organization that you learned about.
Well, I learned about it just by being there and seeing people and talking to people. But basically, like you said, it is very much organized like a large international corporation. In that sense, the headquarters would be Rome, the Vatican, because that's considered the spiritual center of the world for the Illuminati. From there, the power bases go to Europe. There's 12 men. They're called the 12 Lords or the 12 Fathers, and they each represent a country in Europe. And of those 12, the three ruling, it's a triumvirate, is the UK, France, and Germany, because those are the oldest houses. In the Illuminati, it's called the House, the German House, the French House, UK House. From there, America was considered a mission field, and so it was basically in the 1600s, the first Illuminists started coming over, and they established their power base in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Now it's considered the spiritual center for the Illuminati. And from there, they divided the U.S. as time went on, and as it became developed into 7 regions. The East Coast, but the 2 huge divisions for the group are the East Coast region, which is east of Mississippi, and the West Coast region, which is west of the Mississippi. Spiritual headquarters for East Coast are Pittsburgh, but the administrative headquarters are in Alexandria, Virginia. On the West Coast, the spiritual headquarters are Portland, Oregon, and the administrative headquarters are San Diego, California.
Now, you originally were in Virginia, then you moved to San Diego, correct?
Yes. I was first affiliated with Alexandria and then with San Diego.
You know, you said that Pittsburgh was, I've heard that too, Pittsburgh, the spiritual capital. Was interesting to note that George Bush, right after he was elected, traveled to Pittsburgh and gave a huge speech to a Masonic lodge there. Find that interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's not coincidence. And then underneath the regional councils, as they were, well, there's a national council for the U.S., of course, over all of them, 13 men, and under them are the regional councils. And underneath the regional councils, then you have your local councils. And underneath your local councils are going to be your what they call sister groups, or what most people consider cousins.
That's the lower levels, the ones carrying out some of the MK Ultra programs, other things like that.
Well, yeah, but they use a lot of the principles of MK Ultra at many of the levels, I mean, these people are well-versed in every aspect of behavioral science, physiology, human anatomy and physiology. I mean, they're considered the scientists, as it were, of the occult world. Because
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, they study it, they know it inside out, and they use it and apply it.
Sin duda una entrevista impactante que nos evidencia una vez más la locura y conocimientos ocultos que posee la élite Illuminati y sus miembros. Me gustaría saber tu opinión de toda la información expuesta en este video y que analicemos en todo sentido las valiosas palabras de esta valiente mujer. Si el video te ha gustado, dale me gusta y compártelo en tus redes sociales, así más gente se informe de la realidad en que vivimos. Si no estás suscrito a mi canal, te invito a que te suscribas y disfrutes de todo mi contenido. Recuerda que te ha hablado el Origen y te espero en mi próximo video.